Welcome back. In this video we're going to take a look at making a cardboard pattern, since cardboard boxes are something used pretty commonly in games. Alright, to really get a good look, we will require some fairly specific colors for this. So, the first color we're going to need, which I have right here on top, is this very light tan, and the number is D9A861. Alrighty, and we're going to go ahead and just fill our 1024 texture. The next thing we need to do is make a duplicate of this texture. Well, layer, not texture. And I'm just going to go ahead and call this pattern. Now, since I named this pattern, probably there's going to be a pattern in it. But we don't have the pattern yet. We have to make it. So we're going to create a new document. We're going to make it 40 by 40 pixels, pretty small. And I'll Control plus to zoom in on what we're doing here. Alright, for this pattern I want a slightly darker color. So I've already set that up here. And that number is B68728. Alright. And we're going to go ahead and grab our Marquee tool, just on normal. And I'm going to rough out about half of that. Don't mind this. I don't know what is up with their new version of CC, but if we zoom in or out, it'll disappear. And I'm going to use this to just fill half of this pattern. There we go. Looks totally messy. But if I zoom in or out, it's actually fine. I really don't know what's up with that. It annoys the heck out of me. Alright, now we're going to grab a slightly darker texture. This one we don't have to be quite so specific with. We just want to kind of edge this color a little bit. So I'm just going to grab something down here. And I'm going to grab my Marquee tool again. I'm going to be very close to the edge of this. And when I pull it out, if you look, it says right now it's 3 pixels wide. I'm going to bring that down to 1 pixel wide. In fact, you'll barely be able to see it in the final texture, but it will add to it. I'm going to grab my bucket and fill that. Control deselect. Zoom in again and see it's fine. Alright, that's looking pretty good. And of course, when using your Marquee tool, you could have switched from normal to fixed size. And you could have actually plugged in the size of the box you want and done 20 by 40 and 1 by 40. But it won't really matter in the end. As long as you're pretty close to that, it'll look pretty good. I'm going to set this back before I forget. Alright, now we need to save this pattern. So we're going to go up to Edit. And we're going to come down to Define Pattern. And we're going to name it Cardboard. And OK. Now we can close this out, and we don't need to save it because we've already saved our pattern. And take us back to our full texture. Alright, we're still on our pattern layer over here, so we're going to double click this and bring up our layer styles. And what we're looking for is pattern overlay. And it's gone ahead and grabbed that pattern, but it may not immediately. You may have to go find it. You do want it to be on normal. We do want the opacity to be at 100%. And you're going to want to knock the scale down to about 35%. And that's given us this pretty nice pattern on here. Which right now it doesn't really look anything like cardboard. But we're getting close. Alright, we're also going to take this layer and we're going to knock our fill down to 0. And nothing happens. That's okay. We don't want anything to happen right there. It's going to help us with our next bit. We're now going to right click on it we're going to convert to a smart object, which is all just fine and dandy. Now we want these to start looking a little bit more like that, just rather than color, that kind of wavy pattern that cardboard has. That's why we knocked down our fill to go with our ripple. So now we're going to come up to filter, and we're going to come down to distort and choose ripple. Now we want our size set at medium and about 35% ripple, which is not very much, but we don't want it to be crazy. So we'll click OK. There, now we can see we're starting to get a little bit of that detail in there that starts to make this a whole lot better. Next, we're going to take our original layer and we're going to copy this again. And we're going to bring it up here. And I've been terrible about telling you guys to name your layers, but name your layers. We'll call this one Noise Dust. Bet you can't guess what we're going to put in this. Alright, we're going to go up to Filter and Noise. I'm going to add noise. And we want this to be on uniform and monochromatic. I'm going to run about 15%. Alright, that looks pretty good. We're going to go right back and add dust and scratches with a radius of 1 and a threshold of 5. And we get this nice discoloration. So that's looking pretty good. Now, the pattern we created down here was pretty strong. And if we do something like overlay or something like that on here, well, it'll look okay. But see, overlay, you start to get the colors blown out. Soft light, it's all still really, really strong. So we're going to leave this on normal. And we're just going to knock the opacity way down. About 40%. And that lightens up our darker lines without blowing out any of our color values and making them really yellowy or orangey. So there we go. We've got a pretty good base cardboard texture. From here you could use this for boxes and games. You could put text over it if you want. If you put text over it, I would use a scratchy brush to erase it out so it looks a little old and a little worn, and probably even lower the opacity on it a bit. And if you're using this for something like web design or something like that, it's pretty well good to go. You could add a vignette on it, which we can do right here.